Zero. All right, hang on now. Let me go check. Let's see. All right. So is it still cold up there in New York?
Yeah, it's 40s, 30s, so it's not like freezing or anything.
Yeah.
And you're in Hawaii?
I'm in Kauai. Yeah, Kauai.
How's that like? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I can't complain. The universe had me traveling around the country for a while. And yeah, it's nice to finally get some roots. I didn't know it was going to be here. I had no idea. And several times I thought I'm not going to make it.
Really?
But yeah, but the universe is smiling on us. So yeah, we got a reasonable place to stabilize. We got good internet, 5G, and no, I'm not scared of 5G. I'm not scared of GMO but yeah, so we're starting to get some roots here. All right, we're going to get started here in a second. We got a really cool show to end the day with. Hello, Nancy Lee, Nacia Guerrera Del Rio, Slavika Devinsky. Kathy Mason's here. I got your message. I will contact you the next day or two. Christine Nickel, Joan Kirkendall, Wendy Kirkwood, Bo James, Christina Love, Stacy Lewis, Zach Bergen, Harlan Orlando Burr, my new friend, Pauline Kudajar, Linda Dinkelman, Nick DiMartino from down South Australia, Tracy Grigg, down under, Monica Peterson's here, Val Franklin, welcome. For those of you who are new, my name's Todd Medina. This is SOULSPEAKS 5D. We're the main show on the Solji network, which is currently on Facebook Live and YouTube on replays. It's about our 900th episode or getting close to it. SOULSPEAKS 5D. It's a conversation today. It's with Billy Rood of 58 Magazine, 50 and the number 8. Welcome to the show. Thank you for sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence.
Yes, thank you for having me. So happy to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to be talking with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It works both ways. So, yeah, we're going to mix it up a little bit today. I usually ask people, when did you wake up? But I'm not going to ask you that. Not yet anyway. What I want to ask you about is, and we could talk about you in a little bit, but for some reason, 58 Magazine jumped out at me. 50 and the number 8. What's the significance of spelling 50 and having the number 8?
Well, that's a funny story. So originally, I also do fashion photography and video. So at first, this whole magazine was a conceptual fashion art and basically like fashion magazine. So at first it was named 58 because I had a partner and we thought it'd be great to name it after the space race, like when Sputnik was first into space. We had a connection to kind of like creating a conceptual magazine, but with empowering content. And later on, I lost that relationship and that partnership. And then basically around 2 or 3 years ago, I just revamped it and realized that I was looking for a website that had all this spiritual knowledge and information, but the design and basically the quality was lacking. So I was like, okay, I want to create a site that has this information, but it provides it in a beautiful an aesthetic way that someone like me would go on it and maybe take it a little bit more seriously or understand it from more of a creative point of view. And then so the 58 kind of for me has now represented the idea and numerology of change and of evolution. And evolution turning into this idea of, going within and being the creators of our own lives instead of, kind of being told what to do outside of us.
So being told what to do.
Yeah. So
I think I get what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Empowering ourselves to look more within instead of being affected with people and outside influences.
Very cool. Yeah. So listening to the voice that always listened and never talked. Instead of the one that was always talking and never listening.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, and I can relate to what you're saying about the websites because we still haven't launched ours and been trying to for a couple of years. But one of the things that you learn on this path, at least it seems, is what doesn't align with you, don't do it. And so that's one of the things I go and look at these different websites. I'm like, they all look the same to me. And have a brother that is a creative genius. He's from New York. I actually lived in Brooklyn for a long time. But he came in and did a template, copy and pasted and put one together. I saw a couple nights ago. I'm real excited about it. So I get what you're saying. Now, have you implemented your website? Have you put your creative influence into it?
Yeah, so basically everything you see there is like my heart and soul wanting to provide content that is not only like empowering, but definitely like pushes the limits of your mind. Because I've always thought that the whole entertainment industry, especially movies, I've always felt that there's a power that lies in them that has never been fully tapped into. It's like, I get for the entertainment value, but like there's some power there that could really be empowering to people's lives and more beneficial. So along with kind of your mission is to actually use this medium to help others instead of, trying to make money off entertainment.
Yeah, very true. And I think that's, we talk about it. Part of Solji is as we've received it, is to assist in introducing 5D commerce, which is not a good way to describe the abundance that comes with having the faith that you have and alignment in your heart, and then putting that into your work in complete faith, knowing you're going to be taken care of. Because I know it's not cheap in Brooklyn.
No, not at all.
So how long has your site been open to your blessing? I mean, to the point where you made the transition and launched it?
I would say it's been up since September of 2017. Yeah. So it's only been like a little over 2 years.
And what kind of content? I mean, like, for instance, if we went to your page right now, what would we see? What are they? Articles? So you got videos, links?
So basically everything has. Well, basically, I'm using the film industry against themselves in a way, and I feel like all the movies that I've seen, I've compiled them into ways to communicate new information. So I'm not only tapping into a spiritual audience, but like maybe the audience that I also am working with in the fashion, film, or cinematography kind of creative avenue, because I feel that there's a reason why I've seen certain movies and why they've kind of changed my perception of things. So you can see movies about ascension, or you can see articles about abductions. You can experience, content that will basically open your consciousness into a more unlimited way of thinking. Because I feel that when you look at all the structures around us, they're little boxes of limitation, of keeping you from thinking bigger or feeling that you can basically accomplish maybe what you dream or hope to accomplish. So all the articles that I provide, or the content I provide, comes to that point of view where if you read this can empower your life. And if you're open to it, there's ways that it can change your reality into thinking from more of a less fearful point of view and more into the empowerment and inner power, basically, and inner understanding or inner standing of yourself, that you can make the changes to then have the life that you kind of want or dream of, and to just open yourself up to the endless possibilities of like.
I love it, man. It sounds like Solji to me. People say, what's Solji? Well, that's it. It's an energy. It's kind of like what's the best defense? A good offense. So you're focusing on the thought provoking. Now, who contributes? Are you the only contributor, or do you have other contributors as far as content?
Yeah, I have a few contributors. A lot of range from, I've done interviews with a few people like maybe Alba Weinman you've heard, or Geraldine Orozco, who is a part of like this hybridization and alien abduction program. So, and then people who do Akashic Records, Debbie Solaris. So a lot of women actually. And every article or every project I try to do is to collaborate with someone, because I feel like that's what I want to do. And I feel like we can reach more people in a more collaborative state and hearing both sides of the picture than just maybe one point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Integration, right? Just like integrating audiences. You know, I mean, I think that's communities, integrating communities like this. I mean, you have 2 years, you've got to have some traffic going on there. So
I've
we can
surprisingly been doing really well. I don't really advertise or kind of put anything out there besides, just Facebook and Instagram. I kind of just have faith that, whoever's ready to read the info, they'll read it. And I kind of feel that I don't really plan anything either. So whatever comes out and is on the site, I really, really take my time with it, because I feel like there's a responsibility with this info, and I feel there's a lot of people that just put it out there without really thinking about the power that it has or the responsibility. Yeah. And so I really take time to make sure I myself have integrity to share it, and I've experienced it, so it comes out and feels like wisdom rather than, just knowledge that anyone can kind of share. So I make it personal because I really want to be an example, because I feel like that's where we're going. And the more that I can try to do that, then maybe there's more other people like yourself that we can connect to and create even bigger and better things that way.
Mic drop. That was very good. Yeah. Well, and the thing I'm reflecting on right now is you're right. Most of them are women and have been for quite some time. The numbers are beginning to start balancing out. They're nowhere near 50-50. Solji used to be 75-25. Now it's 65-25. 64-36. The last time I saw it. But I'm sitting here reflecting. What we don't see a lot of is, I would say, probably 25 to 35 years old. Might be some 35 to 45. There do tend to be more males in the demographics when I look at them. And I don't know how accurate that would be over in the overall circles of ascension or light workers or whatever you want to call it. But the young people seem to carry, obviously had less conditioning, cleaner DNA maybe. And your outlook is exactly the vibration that so many of us, the older ones, have tried to work to get back to. Which, what I love about what you said is that you don't plan anything. You are conscious of the integrity of what you put out there. You don't waste, or you don't just put wasted energy out there, and that you're walking in faith and really in cooperation with the universe. Mm-hmm. So big props to you. Do you have anybody helping you on the site?
I mean, I definitely feel that I am getting help and guidance, but really I kind of am doing it all on my own. And the contributors that I work with definitely are a huge part of getting this message across. So right now I just kind of feel like I put my feelers out there, and I'm just constantly thinking of attracting the purest, most empowering content. And then that's what I feel that I get guided to, or it's like presented to me. So then I really look at it and then try to find out what exactly I'm trying to convey in every kind of piece of content that I put out there. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you watch this show much, but we talk about what's going on real time, which this is what you're doing real time. This is your mission. But we also talk about the journey, and I don't get to talk to a lot of young people. I am going to ask you the famous question. Did you ever get off track? Were you ever not woke? Or did you have a point where in your young life where you woke up and just said, whoa, things are not what they seem?
Well, that's funny, because I feel like especially a guy, I feel like I chose to experience things like in the physical world more so than like internalizing and feeling things out. So for a while, I definitely went down the rabbit hole of the conspiracy theories and politics and the RV and all this stuff. And I just got lost, and I realized that whole part of this reality and what I'm trying to understand about reality is that there are so many distractions, and every distraction is a way to limit yourself. And if you can look at from all the point of view, from like an ego point of view, where it's limiting, you because it's trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to get the attention it needs to feel love, but also say like, this is your safety bubble, so stay within that. So then I found that hole, and I was like, oh wow, this is really upsetting info. But then I was like, but I don't feel empowered. I don't feel good after reading anything. So I kind of definitely realized the disempowerment and limiting ways all that info kept me, and I totally disconnected myself from it, let's say like a year ago. And I feel like I'm so much more aligned to like just living my life. And that's why I kind of feel like I'm trying to explain about in my website is that like we live in this reality that is kind of like a video game where all these different beings are playing these parts, and it might be upsetting to you and might be really awakening, but they're pushing you to this journey of finding yourself.
Yeah.
And the more you look outside of yourself, you're just falling into all these traps. And the whole point is to keep living your life in the way that you dream it and you desire it. And that's the whole point of this reality, is to like just live your life in the way that you want to. But there's so many distractions because that's the whole point. It can't be easy, it has to be challenging. So basically the whole point is for you to find what you really care about and connect to your spirit and your soul, because that's what we all are. And if you look outside of yourself, it's just more traps. And the thing that's really beautiful about being a part of this reality and the entertainment industry is that there's so many little like clues that are hidden. Like, I don't know if you've seen Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg. It's literally, to me, like the explanation of this reality and how you can get out of it. It's like the ascension journey. It's basically the story of like, a video game reality, a VR reality that you put on, and you become any character that you want. And then there's all these little games that you can play within that. But in order to kind of get out of this game, there's 3 keys that you have to solve, and they're all in your mind. And so the first key is you have to think differently from everyone. And so you have to kind of go backwards. Don't do what the status quo is doing, go the opposite way. And the other way is, and then after that, is to face your fear and do the one thing that you're terrified of. And no matter what that is, you have to do it. And then you find like what really matters to you. And then after that, you have to realize that the whole point of this game is to not win or lose, because if you think of winning, there's always a loser. And so the whole point of it is you have to just play, and you have to just live the life that you really want. And then that's how you can exit this video game.
Right on, man.
And that movie,
or stay in it and be a master. Yeah. Either way, you got to be a master. If you got out of here, you're a master. Yeah. Exactly. So, I'm just curious. You're right. There is no right or wrong. There's a lot of people that have come on this show, 900 shows, and have a lot of different perspectives and life experiences. And, I think at the end of the day, they're all the same thing. No one's is the same, just like you can't do anything anyone else does in that video game. You are truly unique. But I'm curious as to what your experience is in relation to the many people that have come on here. The vast majority of them, 95% of them, probably 35 to 65, and have been doing channeling, transmissions. I don't want to say 99% of them, but many of them have been connected to infinite intelligence in a very unique way, powerful way, divine episodes, that type of thing. But in relation to the dialogue you have with the universe, is it one voice? Do you have galactic impressions, angelic archangels, divine essences, anything like that? What are you connected to, or what faces of the universe are you connected to?
I used to think that I have all these connections to all those things, but that has kind of changed recently for me. I used to you know, I've been told I have like 7 Arcturian guides and Syrian guides, um, and a lot of energy from Saint Germain and Ascended Masters. And like, to me, that's cool and all, but I personally feel like I just want to connect to myself.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I'm focusing on now, is because I don't, it's not that that doesn't exist. It might, you know, and I definitely feel that I have connections to, let's say, all these star races and star people. But the only thing that I know when I wake up every day is like, I'm stuck with me. So I can tell anyone I have all these guides and everything, but when you're living day to day and meeting all these different kind of people, open or not to this info, not everyone's going to believe that. So I rather just tell people that, you know, I'm just trying to connect to my spirit and my soul.
Yeah. No, I dig it. I totally dig it.
Yeah.
I totally dig what you're saying. Yeah, because you're only going to be Billy Rood one time.
Exactly.
You know, I'm only going to be Todd one time. So let's make it good.
Yeah.
That and, you know, I mean, I recognize all those, anything and everything is an aspect of me, but in the times I feel separated, I will scream at the top of my lungs, I'm the one down here doing the work. You guys ain't down here doing the work. So, but I was just curious because a couple of the young people I've talked to speak in those same terms, without not even having any type of face of the universe come and speak to them or stand before them or whatever. But to just hear kind of a one vibrational voice made up of a bunch of frequencies.
Yeah. I mean, I've had like abduction experiences, and that's what I've been kind of talking about lately.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Well, you skipped right over that part.
Well, that's like the newest thing I've kind of released, because it took me a while to kind of be okay. Not okay, just be responsible about that, because I know the idea of contact is very, it's still not comfortable to a lot of people. But what I've come to realize from that is, like, ever since I was a child, I've had contact. And the more
now, did you have, what did you write about? More recent contacts or earlier in your life?
I did a video kind of with another contributor, Geraldine, and we talked about our experiences and what we kind of learned from them, and kind of, you know, just kind of opened up. And I'm personally just trying to bring this, like, this information that's not really known, just more into the open.
I agree.
And for me, I think a lot of the abduction experiences have been portrayed a certain way. And to me, I've never had a very fearful experience. I've also not remembered.
How many have you had?
Well, from what I can remember, I would say like 5.
Okay. Now, what I was getting at earlier too was, and I totally agree with you, and I love the concept of 58 because, and that's our, you know, that's our MO here is to speak about these things, because our highest activations are going to come from conversations like this, because someone's going to be listening or watching who's had 10 of those experiences and going, oh my God, I can actually relate to this guy, Billy Rood. And that same lack of fear that you're talking about in your experiences can then come to the surface. And even those people who are on the cusp of having those contact experiences. But what I was going to ask you was, did a memory of a contact come from the latter part of your life first, and then you started to remember some of the other ones, or did you always remember them?
Well, I've always, like, when I was little, I've always had bloody noses for like hours, just like insane bloody noses. And I also sleptwalked and kind of woke up and, like, in my house in random places, and I never knew why. But and then I've had dreams where I've seen like beings with like a dolphin head or a lion head. And then I've also pulled like black goo out of my finger. And so, like, as a child, I was like, oh, those are just dreams, you know, like, how do I know? But then more and more, when I talk to more people that have had similar experiences or talked about their own abductions, I'm like, oh, maybe I was abducted, and that's what I experienced. So
Oh, by the way, that's what
maybe
happened.
we're like, oh, okay, never thought of it like
Uh,
that. So to me, it's just like dreams. Um, but that's why I kind of have always loved my dreams, because I feel, for me, they've given me creative ideas.
yeah.
And just looking at some of my dreams, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, and I had this idea where there's this the whole idea of grays. I was like, okay, they're a version of us in the future, and they look so small and have big heads and big eyes because of pollution and
Okay,
radiation.
we're gonna have to
Atomic.
come back to that. Keep going with the story, but we gotta come back to that. There's a synchronicity here.
Okay.
I can't believe you just said that, but there are no coincidences. Go ahead.
And so like this whole idea of them having big eyes, it's like their pupils became the whole eyes because we had to live underground, and we're smaller because you live underground, so there's less room, and our bodies became like, our skin was gray because of lack of sunlight. And the crazy thing that I realized, like writing that, that's the history of these of the grays. Like from what I've researched and understanding about like the Zeta reticuli, is that what we call the grays are actually called Zeta reticuli, and then their whole story is that they lived on a planet, but they became so spiritually obsessed with knowledge that their heads grew bigger, and they lost their connection to their emotional body because they became so
Hmm.
intellectual. And then that, it's like, wow, this idea I had, it's like it was coming from them. And and then from that realization, I came to this journey knowing that that people that have experiences of abduction with those kind of beings, there's something not unique or special, but emotionally, I think they're trying to learn more about that aspect because they don't have that anymore. And so
Yeah.
they come and experiment or abduct or have contact with beings that can teach them more about emotions, and because
Or they
they're
could,
like,
or they could just stay shrouded and pull up a chair and sit in our house and watch us and observe us go through all the different emotions. Who knows? But no,
probably implant
yeah, that's
experiences.
interesting. So I talked about this on an earlier show. So my partner and I, in the last few days, had a couple of really one night in particular where their presence. We live next to a pasture and we go for walks. Coming back from the walk, and we both saw a gray, a short gray, and so anyway, the presence is there. We know it's there. There's been some communication. I'd say, but I was interested in what you had to say. Now you were saying in that your feeling is that they are us from the future, right? Is that what you said?
Well, what I've learned is that they can travel through. There is no time for them. So
Yeah.
what basically, I mean, in a way, you could say that.
Yeah.
Um, and and it is, they are kind of us because in this game that we're playing, we're just playing out this galactic drama on a smaller scale because
Yeah.
we're basically teaching the entire universe like compassion.
Yeah.
And the more and more we can stay neutral and not be pulled emotionally, I think they're learning a lot more from us than we know.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I believe the human is the hero and we are the darlings of the universe, and we are not just sending within ourselves and this world and solar system, but the entire universe. I love the way you put these things. It took me
Beautiful.
years to get to this point, and you're just spitting them out.
The beautiful thing about that is that I feel like we were those beings. Like they're
Yeah,
a version of us that we have experienced, but now we're in a human body.
yeah,
Because I like to call it, we're in a new prototype. Like all
yeah,
these species are in different prototypes of experience and have different programs of ego and personality playing a part not only on this small scale on Earth, but like galactically.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the compassion, because I really believe that that's the human hybrid soul species contribution, is the heart. Because if you think about all of our successes, loves, hates, failures, everything has come from the heart, you know, everything, the perseverance, the revolution, you know, through all the histories and all that. Um, you know, the path, what is it? The road to hell's paved with good intentions, but intentions are everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting perspective. I agree with you totally. So, yeah. Now, let me ask you this. So I was talking about this on earlier shows. So we connect to my partner and I, we connect very much in the ethers with our teams and aspects of ourselves. I mean, this is taken on some manifestation, materialization. Let's put it that way. Not necessarily anything I could prove or hard matter, but definitely visual. And two people are witnessing it. Now you've got that frequency or vibration, and then you have an encounter with a zeta. Okay. I see those as two different dimensional frequencies, which, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying, to me, because this just occurred to me, I'm thinking, okay, that just seems a little bit different. What do you think?
Like your experience of them is a different frequency?
Well, I mean, do you see the short grays, for example, being more in the physicality than maybe some of the other consciousnesses or energies, such as a higher self, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're no different than us having consciousness and energy, but they are so evolved past the idea of self that, like, physically they don't need to look beautiful, because spiritually they're like very, you know, they have a lot of information, so they don't care about how they look.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what you're saying about emotions and frequency. I've really been thinking about that lately. Like, you know, as a human, we have such a range of emotions, and like I've really wanted to discover, like, where does that all come from? Because, you know, when we're born, we experience all these different things, but I feel like there's this really interesting idea and theory that I'm starting to kind of grasp, where all our emotions might stem from other experiences besides this planet. And that there's been other experiments that haven't necessarily succeeded, but have caused insane amount of emotions, and let's call it frequency. It's created so much range of frequencies, from extreme low, let's say the negative, and extreme high is the positive. And so maybe there's something that we can study about all these races, and that maybe we've been seeded by, let's say, like a certain amount of them. And from that, because, you know, we have like 12 strands of DNA, like ideally we do, but maybe we're kind of, you know, we're existing only using, let's say, like a third or half of those. But maybe all those DNA strands are frequencies of each of these races that have experienced a certain frequency of emotion. And so let's say the Zetas, which is what I've learned, are like this idea of AI, and that they've experienced extreme prejudice and discrimination because everyone treated them like they're just machines and not a sentient being. And we've experienced that here, you know. And so that frequency, and when we heal that, let's say that heals their whole genetic line.
I agree. I love what you're saying. On a couple of points. One, you know, just to reiterate that the universe is learning from us. I mean, we're not small. We're not the you know, the low species on the totem pole. They're learning from us. And I love the way you explain that about the frequencies. replacing that the word emotion. And again, I think the example of healing that in ourselves heals the zeta frequency, theoretically, of an emotion that they haven't been able to balance. But that's just one case of what we talked about earlier, and that we're actually influencing the entire universe, all realms and dimensions. But yeah, you said something else too. I forgot what it was. I don't remember. Now, are you an artist? Are you an artist? Do you have? I was going to ask you. You seem like you would be.
I do photography, video, and I'm currently writing a feature because that's what I eventually want to do.
Yeah. Do you do video production, like your own videos?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do
very
the
cool.
editing and all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool.
And on your point, I kind of want to ask you this question and see what you think. But this whole concept of everyone says us as humans we are God, right?
Yeah.
And we can create whatever reality that we desire, but I feel like there's something deeper that we need to really discover about that. And do you think that you have any new information or along your journey you can describe what that actually means, to think of us as God, but what does that really mean to you? I'm just trying to gauge what people really think what that means to them.
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I think, I do believe that. What does that mean? Well, the way I would look at it is this way, and we have to use human words, unfortunately, because I'm not discriminating against any part of the universe, nor do I feel we're small. But I will say that we have been in a very dense frequency, whether it was controlled or not controlled, whether we were dumbed down or not dumbed down, institutionalized, all that doesn't even matter, because we are changing. There's an energy of change, of transformation. It's affecting our physical bodies, carbon body to light body. I mean, people are having experiences all over the world. We don't need to prove that out. But what I think it is if you look at the sacred texts, whatever one it was, made in the image, because I'm sure there was more than one, we're actually transforming from a lower density environment, which means as within, without, we're a lower density. And as we're becoming lighter and lighter, the external environment's becoming lighter and lighter. And I think that's the aspect of the godlike aspect that maybe you're referring to in terms of creation. I think you're a living example, taking that creativity and mainlining into that infinite power and projecting it from your singularity, which is really, when it's ultimately done and completed, permeates into the entire, not only the entire Earth grid, but the entire universe. That impression is everybody's equal in that respect. So whether you're somebody on the world stage who's selling 1 billion records, or you're somebody who's so shy they've never released any of their music, sitting in their studio at 3 o'clock in the morning in Brooklyn and putting out some dank tune that connects all the star families. That's how I would explain it. I think that the other thing that you bring up that's really important is it's not about getting there. It's about right now. And this is actually where the magic is, and that's where that godlike, those godlike skills and abilities have their highest potential is when you're right here, right? And the other thing I was going to say too, in what you were talking about with the healing, the universal healing, when you're replacing the word emotions with frequencies, is that I think there's quite a bit of channeled information, transmissions, downloads, whatever. There's also, I think, a lot of proof if you look deep enough on the internet, and you did, in terms of archaeological, anthropology, evidence of other civilizations that were here. And I think, to my point, is that if as I understand it, if there's any planet that we've got any knowledge of at all, there's none that has more universal seeds than the Earth does, which means we're representing, so I think that what you bring up about the way you explain what a lot of people would call healing, yeah, for you to recognize the effect that it has on the collective is, to me, very, very impressive. And I would ask you, you're in a big city, even just being in Brooklyn, because I know Brooklyn's filled with people your age. Yeah. And so, do you hear a lot of people talking about stuff like this on the scene, in the streets in Brooklyn, in the bars and the restaurants and such?
There's a few, like, in my inner circle where we've kind of like met up and everything and like that, and now we're not really doing as much creative work in that, like in the fashion industry. We've kind of separated ourselves and are now either doing more kind of like transitioning, you could say, from like this 3D job into more these 5D jobs, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So like there are people awakening, but like I've kind of realized that there's times where I feel a lot of fear of like actually talking to people in my outside real life. So I actually just started working at a little spiritual bookshop and have been trying to reach people more on the ground and just being there and being able to kind of just like talking about my website or what they're doing, and trying to just understand things and be less online, because I feel like now that I'm online and seeing what people do and everything like that, it's a beautiful way to connect and build a community. But I think like being in presence with people and actually being one-on-one or in a group setting in real life, like, is so much more beneficial to me. And just feeling that energy rather than, just reading articles or online. There's something that I find really, it's like helping me open up and get on my comfort zone also, especially talking about like these expansive topics. So it's not easy either, but I feel like I'm just trying to be more on the ground and be an example to show that, like, this, none of this means you're crazy or there's something wrong with you.
We have a saying on this show: crazy's not crazy anymore. Everyone on here is crazy. But I love that. And I love what you said about being the example. I think, you mentioned you were into the conspiracy thing. I think everybody here went through a certain period where they were like, holy crap, is this really going on? This is a big illusion. But, and so I think what served us to a certain point served us to a certain point. And like you're saying now, you want to get down in the ground level. You want to embody it. You want to expand yourself in more than just through the internet. The example itself doesn't have to say anything, just be the example. That itself is the energy that you're talking about in your being, and that's what does it. That's the contagion right there. That's what lights people up, whether they're aware of it or not.
We got to walk the walk if we're going to talk the talk.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you get to a certain point, I'm a talker, but like my wife's told me many times, if you know it, why you got to say it? Yeah. And and that's what I was getting at. We've gone through these complexities, and we've weeded through them, and it's getting down to this really simple, profound, infinite wisdom. And it's something as simple as like you said, I just want to be the example. Well, what more can you offer the universe? What higher praise can you give to the universe than by aligning with your heart like that? And for yourself, like you said, when you get out into the ground in Brooklyn in this spiritual shop and one-on-one, that's sustenance for you. That's where you start, because And I think that's the way this thing rolls, is you're serving yourself. Many people have said it. I didn't make it up. And when you do that simultaneously, you're serving the collective.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Right on.
Yeah, we'll have to we'll have to do this again. I was expecting to see some old guy like me.
You're not
But
that old. How old are you?
no, I'm 57. I'm 57.
Oh,
But it's age is relative. Age is relative. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So let's talk about, I want to go back to just real quick. I want to make sure I milked it all out of you. But so with the young people, and I'm assuming, I've been to Brooklyn just a couple of years ago, and I saw, went up and down the street trying to get a gig, and a lot of people, a lot of young people, 30 years old, give or take 5 years. Do they talk about ascension? Do they talk about channeling, downloading, stuff like that?
Well, the truth of it, from what I experience and see, is I feel that most people, especially were in New York, and especially like a spiritual community, is very lacking. And the thing that is kind of painful to watch is that there's so many people that go do tarot readings and count on something outside of themselves to tell them how to live their life and how to, and buy a certain crystal to help you with your life. And I'm just like, these people are just giving their power away, and they don't know exactly that they're doing it. And so it's teaching me to be more compassionate and to understand where everyone is kind of in their own journey, because for me it's like I really, really appreciate it, because for me it's giving me, it's reawakening also the truth of what's happening. And not that that's important to me to wake people up, because everyone has their own journey. And the only thing that I'm here to do, like you would say, a lot of people talk about mission in order to help people. But I'm like, what I hear when someone's like, my mission is to do this, it's like, it sounds like a very egoic way to talk about something new that you're kind of like pretending is, or you're kind of putting on a new mask. So for me, my mission is more for me to prove that, or I guess now what my mission is to prove that what Jesus was teaching, I can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way that I can transcend death and transcend my body and everything that's physical here, to prove people that, we are in a reality that, and that there's so much more that we can experience, to actually prove this information and not just talk about it in a way that's loving and caring. And like, that's great and all, but the thing that's really amazing to me about Ascended Master teachings and ancient school wisdom teachings, Tibetan teachings, and Buddhism is, like, if you truly love yourself, you can conquer anything. You don't need anything or anyone outside of you to experience. Like, that's a beautiful thing about all these things I read about Ascended Masters. They love themselves so much, they can walk through fire. Nothing affects them. That they can heal anyone in an instant because they love themselves that much. Yeah. And for me, that is a great reflection to like where I'm at and the work that I need to do. And also, if my mission is here to prove that, then I can't just be on the internet all day. I need to be on the floor, be on the ground, and live it. Not just
righteous. Live it. Yeah. And my friend Jennifer Sampson from Australia, she says, you could take Solji out and about, Todd, see Hawaii. I bet there are many with amazing stories. I guess you could do both, get out and about and film it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done it before. It's fun, but I think you're right. I think this is, and I've seen it in what I do, in the work I do, and the stories I can follow, people coming together in the physical, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had some friends in Amsterdam last week, 5 or 6 of them. I think they had about 25 people there, but 5 or 6 people that met through this, somehow met through this network. We're all at this get together. I was going to ask you 2 questions. One, I think the answer is yes. Do you find that as you get deeper and deeper into alignment and at peace, and therefore power, your own power and love for yourself, and with your expression 58, do you find that you're in synchronicity, catching more synchronicities, meeting the right people, having the right things come before you that are opportunities for you, that are blessings, that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had a huge transition in my life regarding like how I feel and perceive success. Like I used to make so much money in the fashion industry. You have no idea how ridiculous the amount of money people make. And, you know, it's just clothes. And now being on the other spectrum of that, where it's like every day I have no idea where anything is coming from. I think there's something really more fun in that. Um, and also knowing that, you know, everything outside me is kind of like a mirror, you know, telling you where I'm at. And I think for me, this transition is really beneficial in my growth because, you know, like we're all saying, we're all kind of going through a reset and a transition from, you know, the way things used to be. And I don't think it's easy yet for anyone.
Yeah.
But I also feel that if we can experience, you know, this transition to be an example for others and show that, you know, there are times where it's painful and it's hard and
yeah,
I think you're trying to do all these things, but I almost feel the less you try, the more you kind of get back. And it's not like I'm trying to get 58 out there in like a mainstream thing. It's more like I'm just trying to reach people that are ready for it because those are the connections that I really like. This conversation, I really get more out of it than trying to force or be too much out there. You know, it's like it's good to what's actually just here and appreciate it. So
and not appraise yourself for your efforts by the old paradigm of competition or whatever, you know.
Exactly.
Just by maintaining that alignment, you know, my wife would tell me many times before we really connected and Solji was really birthed, but she would tell me, as you go, Solji will go. So if I was spinning out, Solji was spinning out. You know, if I was in alignment, Solji is in alignment. So that's what it sounds like to me. You're conscious. Somebody just wrote conscious compassion, consciously aware, and you're like Morgan and I are the caretakers of Solji. We're not Solji. We're just the caretakers, and there's other caretakers coming. And so you're like the caretaker for 58, and you've got some people collaborating with you, and it grows, but it grows in a natural, organic flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like we're all attracting our tribe, you know, through our projects and through our work. It's like, it's not necessarily getting more people to it. It's more like finding the tribe that we want to be around.
You know? Yeah.
How did you and Morgan meet? I guess I don't know that much about you two.
How did we meet? That was how did we meet? Well, this is about you, not me. In short, we met online. She was in South Australia. I was in Houston, Texas, and I never like wrote somebody and said, "Hey, do you want to join the Soulogy group?" And but I did it to her because I was hitting on her. So that happened, and then I never really that happened, and then one night at 3:33 in the morning, I was spinning out, and it was about a year and a half, maybe a little over a year off the streets for a couple of years, and was having some PTSD flashbacks, and 3:33 in the morning, I jumped off the couch and said, I need her now. You know, I've been celibate for 4.5 years. And and next thing I know, she messaged me in response to a message I sent her. And so we ended up we ended up having Helios Gamos that night, soul merging, and I knew immediately. I was like, yeah, you know, yeah, that was that. Interesting, yeah. But you threw me a curveball, man.
I love hearing people's stories about how they meet, and especially in the spiritual community, because there's so much people talking about soulmates and like refinding each other through that. And one of the things that I'm really interested in doing, like along with your work, is I'm trying to make a film where, you know, the whole idea of the power of media. And I've always been thinking, you know, like, what's a thought maybe someone has never had about media? And so I just been thinking that for like, I would say like a year. And then one day I had this thought, it's like, what if someone can make a film where after anyone watches it, they can meet their soulmate? So that's kind of what I'm trying to write at the current moment. And that's why I love.
Is that what you're working on right now?
Well, that's one film. And then another film I'm trying to explain this reality we're in and how people can basically like see it more from a fun idea of a video game, and through that you can find your destiny.
Yeah.
So those two
sometimes we just need to not take the red or the blue pill, take the chill pill. Everybody Wang Chung, man. Everybody chill. Yeah, that's pretty. That's a cool. I like that. I like both of them, but I like that. I don't want to call it a conception. That dream, right? Because you got to start by conceiving it, but to create a film that when it's over, the space has been created for the viewer to find their partner. Very cool. Yeah.
Tricky thing is I feel like I have to live that and be that in order to make something like that. You know, I can't, like for me, if someone said they're going to do that, I'd be like, well, who are they seeing? Are they even with their soulmates?
Yeah. Well, spoken like a true New Earth healer. You know, I can only take you to the point that I've taken myself. And so, we'd be glad to help you with that in any way. I feel like I feel the spirit of collaboration with you anyway. I'd love to have you back on. And if Morgan and I can help you, Morgan loves to be in front of the camera, so she'd be.
Well, I love I think we share these like little love stories, especially in the spiritual community. You know, I'm trying to share my story of meeting my twin flame and soulmate, and knowing where the separation happened and how we are coming together now and healing each other. And it's not easy.
That's happening now.
Yeah, we found each other 2011, and we're both Leos. We first hated each other. She was my assistant at first, and we just did not get along for like 2-3 years. And now we're together living in Brooklyn with our corgi. But I never knew the idea of twin flames or soulmates until I started collaborating with this woman called Dr. Harmony, who is basically like a twin flame expert. She says helping people find their other half. And so I've been working with her, finding out ways that she helps people do that, but also wanted to discover where that separation first started, because there was a lot of healing that I had to go through after that.
That tends to happen to the masculine. I spent 2 years on the streets, and that wasn't as intense as the 3 years with a divine goddess.
I hear you, man.
It's a humbling experience. She just beat me to the question, but would love to have you back on. Would love to have you and your partner on. We really have been trying to expand. We'd like to get some young people on, even younger than 10. Some of these incredible children that are coming out, spitting out quantum physics equations, but also couples who somebody just mentioned they love your vulnerability, your openness, but couples that are, because again, that's like you said earlier at the top of the show, it's the experience that teaches. It's the experience is what it's all about. which is what you're sharing on your website. So if you and your partner would like to come on, we'd love to have you. And or if you'd like to come back, we'd love to have you back on. I think we could have some fun conversations.
Yeah, definitely. I would love that.
You cool with that? And
yeah,
if and when Morgan and I get back to New York, we'll definitely have to meet you down in the streets of Brooklyn. We got some cool places there. Yeah.
Huh? Or are you guys
no,
traveling?
right? No, I'm not. I've been traveling for a long time. We're actually settling here. It was just, again, like you said earlier, following that direction. It just happened here. She's actually going back to South Australia for 3 months, and then she'll be back here. And then from there, we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But maybe we can, we can mingle a little bit in the Big Apple.
Yeah.
All right. So Billy Rood, 58 magazine. Check them out. Let's support them. This is a year of collaboration. This is the year that we support each other energetically, materially, non-materially, physically, non-physically, through the ethers, however we can. It was a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to further collaborations. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Let's do this again really soon. Appreciate all your community and all you're doing too. So
absolutely. You take care. See you later. All right. See everybody tomorrow. I'm sure we got 3 or 4 shows lined up. I don't know what